Hello, my name is Joe, and welcome to my channel, Joe's Book and Movie Corner. Today I have another tag video for Tag Tuesday. I tried recording this yesterday, Wednesday. It's now Thursday, and but you're probably not watching these on Tuesday anyway, so who cares? So this is the Dragon book tag created by Elaine at Cobalt Dragon, and I was tagged by Gavin at Genre Books and Pat from Book Chat with Pat. So thank you both to Gavin and Pat for including me. Before I get started, I do want to say that the last video I did, which was another Tag Tuesday video, I mentioned, where do I get inspiration from videos? And I failed to mention that I'm actually really enjoying tag videos. So that's just an open call. If you want to tag me, feel free. I may get to it, I may not, but I do I'm really enjoying these tag videos. But let's go ahead and get started with the Dragon book tag. And the theme here is like dragons, fantasy, some cats. So we'll see how close I stick to maybe the fantasy theme here. Number 1, The Hobbit. Smaug, from The Hobbit, loved gold and shiny things. What book or series have you enjoyed that features gold, shiny items or has a shiny cover? So the first thing that really came to mind on my bookshelf was Goldfinger by Ian Fleming. This is, of course, a James Bond 007 novel. I have not read this yet. In the James Bond series, I have read sequentially up through Dr. No. The next book is Goldfinger. And that was a while ago that I read the James Bond book. So, and this brings up something I've been thinking about. I haven't looked too deeply, but I don't know that I found a booktube event like Summer of Book Trek or March Mystery Madness. I have not noticed a James Bond or Ian Fleming booktube event. So if that exists, please let me know in the comments. I would love to participate. And if it doesn't exist, maybe I have an idea for a booktube event. Here's a hint. It's read a James Bond book. Big idea, right? But anyway, so my pick is Goldfinger. I would love to read this at some point. And by the way, I think these are the 70-year edition, 75-year covers. I really love these editions. This one I actually have to replace. It's had some water damage, so if I find another one, I'll probably replace this. But yeah, I really love these covers. They're really stylish. Next up, number 2, Dancing with Dragons. Dragons and cats go well together. Do you have cats? A favorite book or series that features cats. So do I have cats? Yes, I do. I have 2 cats, and there is a funny story behind that. So my wife at the time, when she was my girlfriend, she shared an apartment with a roommate, and her roommate had 2 cats. And my girlfriend at the time ended up adopting this stray cat that was hanging around the apartment building. And one day, my girlfriend's roommate said, "Hey, that cat looks pregnant." My girlfriend was like, no way. She's just getting fat because we're taking her in. She's getting well fed. And it turns out she had 5 kittens. So at one point, that small apartment had 8 cats running around in it. And that was a lot of fun to experience. And I actually adopted one of the cats. So when we got married, we combined cats. And now we have a mother and daughter. We have 2 cats currently. A favorite book or series that features cats. Nothing came to mind when I first thought of this. So I'm going to throw up somewhere here one of my Star Trek books. So last video or so I've mentioned I'm on a huge Star Trek kick right now. I cannot wait for Book Trek. I'm probably going to be Star Trek'd out by the time Book Trek comes around this summer. And this is, so the book you're seeing here is Uhura's Song. It's the original series, number 21 by Janet Kagan. And this is on the cover you'll see a cat alien from the planet Iau. I'm probably saying that wrong. And it's not the only cat species in the Star Trek universe. I think it's pronounced the Caitians. There's 2 Caitian characters in, I think, the animated series and Lower Decks. So I don't have this book yet, but I am collecting Star Trek books. I have a lot of them. I've been on a Star Trek book collecting kick as well as reading them. So at some point, I'd love to find Uhura's Song and add it to my collection. But I know of it because it's the one with the cat on it. Number 3, Dragonology. What crafts or hobbies do you enjoy? Do you have books about crafts and hobbies? So 2 Well, one hobby that I'm into currently is I'm a musician. I play bass guitar in a band. I don't have too many books on music. There's another one. I will mention a music book coming up here. But I did want to mention also photography. I haven't really explored photography recently, but I do like it, and I do have several photography books. And if you're getting into photography, I recommend The Americans. Now this is, again, it's a photography book, so it's an art book with just, so it's The Americans by Robert Frank. In the 1950s, he traveled America and he took black and white photographs. And this is a very famous and important photography book. As you flip through it, they almost tell a story. Sometimes one photograph might comment upon the next, or there's some comparisons. But this book is an absolute classic. You probably can't see these very well in this video. Here, let me just show the first one is a very famous photograph featuring an American flag here. Oh. But if you're into photography, you should check out this book. I found this just at a used bookstore for pretty cheap. So this is an absolute classic. Number 4, Dragon Art. Do you have a favorite artist? Books featuring artists. Answers can be about any type of artist, musicians, authors, or painters, etc. My favorite artist, I'm going to go with another photography book. This is, so when I was getting into photography, my dad's always been into photography, but we had both kind of been exploring the subject at the same time, and we had both kind of discovered together famous photographers. Robert Frank is one. There's a very famous French photographer called Henri Cartier-Bresson. And if you're studying photography, obviously, The Americans is a classic book. Cartier-Bresson, he talked about capturing what he called the decisive moment. And I'm going to go ahead and throw up, here it is. I've got a new software system, so I'm looking at a mirror image to myself. So I'm going to throw up a photograph to kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about. This is by Henri Cartier-Bresson, and it shows what he called the decisive moment. So this is a picture of a man jumping over a puddle, and he's just plucking the perfect moment out of time before the guy's foot kind of ruins the reflection that he's created over the puddle. So that's what he means by the decisive moment. And this photographer, I really like this guy. This is Joel Meyerowitz. I think this is his first book, if I'm not mistaken. It's called Cape Light. It's photographs of Cape Cod. And this was a photographer that I felt like I discovered on my own as my dad and I were both kind of exploring photographers. And he started out in New York as a street photographer. And if you look at his early photographs, he's also trying to find that decisive moment out on the street. But then when he switched, it seemed like, one, he switched to color. And he also almost would take a step back and include more in his frame. He refers to it as field photography. It's about the whole field, he calls the frame. And then, so this book, and if we look in the back, we can see Joel Meyerowitz standing in front of not a small camera that you would use for street photography, but that's a 8x10 large format camera. Very big, very heavy. It takes a lot to set this thing up. It's not like a small 35 millimeter camera that's real quick and quiet. So if you look at his early street photography, you can see why he would be drawn to switching to a slower, large format camera that takes a lot of time to set up. And you can see here, I mean, this is kind of landscape photography. Also in this book, we'll see some portraits, which are, large format is very nice for portraits. And then there's some photographs like these beach scenes that, again, maybe we could argue there's a decisive moment here, but again, it's more about the entire frame. It's similar to a landscape, but with people. So I think that's what he means when he says field photography. But anyway, I love this book. It's great color photography, and he's one of my favorite photographers. That's Joel Meyerowitz. Another book, and I should have looked this up before I started recording. I can't remember the name. I'm going to throw it up on screen. It's a book I read. It's a music book about the band The Grateful Dead. Around, I think, 2019, I saw the band Dead & Company live. And around the same time I read this book. It's a pretty long book at around 700 something pages, but it's a very quick read. If you're interested in kind of the hippie movement or the Grateful Dead, check out this book. Next up, number 5, How to Live with Dragons. Do you cover by? And what are your favorite colors? What book or series did you enjoy that features dragons? So my favorite color in general, I always say is red, but honestly, if a cover has nice complementary colors, I don't care what color it is. Do you cover by? Sometimes I do. If I go to a used bookstore, because let's face it, I'm addicted to used bookstores, and I don't have anything specific that I'm looking for, I generally will peruse the science fiction section because you're bound to find some good covers. So an example of one that first I saw Robert Heinlein on this spine. This is Space Cadet by Robert Heinlein. At the time I bought this, I had not read any Heinlein, but I knew at some point I would want to. And then I pulled this off and saw that cover. And it's really cool, very striking. So that was a cover buy for me, as well as the author I know is famous. And also, these books I did not buy for the covers, but I just wanted to demonstrate what I like and why science fiction is generally a very good genre if you like covers. This is the book I'm currently reading now. This is Star Trek: The New Voyages. If you know Star Trek, if you know Star Trek books, you are probably familiar with this. This is a short story collection. I'm reading this now. I've got 2 more stories to go, and it ends with a poem. And I will say I'm generally not a short story collection fan. I think short stories themselves are fine, but as a collection, I generally get tired with them. But I'm on a huge Star Trek kick, and I am finding, surprisingly, that I am enjoying reading this short story collection. So I'll talk about this in my monthly wrap-up video, but man, this one's, I'm having a lot of fun with this. Another Star Trek book I wanted to show off just for as an example of covers that I like. I've talked about this before. This is Star Trek: The Next Generation #1, Ghost Ship by Diane Carey. Unfortunately, it's not that good of a book. The characterizations are totally off. That's not her fault. But the second half does drag. But I do love the cover. Despite this not being the Enterprise, I think the cover is really good. Obviously, all of the original series covers from the old Bantam era through the Pocketbooks numbered era, all those covers I think are excellent. And then the early numbered TNG covers are very good. They're really interesting, well done artwork. So this is, even though the book's not great, the artwork I think is really good on the cover. Did I miss anything with that? Oh, yes. Second part to number 5. What book or series do you enjoy that features dragons? So first off, now I have 2 answers for you. These are not deep cuts. These are pretty basic. We mentioned The Hobbit, so of course The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. And also you can include The Silmarillion as well. I've read both of them. Both The Hobbit and The Silmarillion feature dragons. There's a dragon here on the cover. Both are really good. I like both of these. And another book that is not a deep cut, and actually there are no dragons in this. This is, of course, A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. This is book 1 of the Song of A Song of Ice and Fire, and later on the dragons will show up in the series. But again, this is a very popular book. Everyone loves this book. I love it. I think it's great. Wins a winner. Maybe one day. But anyway, that has dragons in it as well. Next up, number 6, Star Magic. Do you have a favorite constellation or a favorite astronomy book? Favorite constellation? I think Cassiopeia is my favorite. And the reason I like Cassiopeia is in the winter months, you can use it to find the North Star. So you can use the Big Dipper. And please, if I'm screwing this up, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, please. But if I'm remembering correctly, in the winter months, the Big Dipper is kind of low on the horizon in the northern hemisphere. And Cassiopeia, which is very recognizable, is kind of higher up. And it's basically, it looks like an M. And if you look in the sky, you can kind of find Cassiopeia, and it kind of looks like it's eating, I imagine it like it's a monster trying to eat Polaris, the North Star. So that's how I like to find the North Star in the winter months. And then when the Big Dipper is visible, you can use one side of the Big Dipper and it points to the North Star. Also, since we're speaking constellations, if you're unaware, the North Star is within the constellation Ursa Minor, the Little Dipper. But I live around Atlanta, and Ursa Minor is, you can only see Polaris and maybe one or two other stars on a good night. So it's hard. That one's hard to find if you live with a lot of light pollution. And then a favorite astronomy book. This is not really astronomy. This is physics and cosmology. But it's the illustrated A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. Also, this edition has the universe in a nutshell. And I've read a good portion. I haven't read it cover to cover, but I read a good portion of A Brief History of Time. I have not read the universe in a nutshell. But I've also, sometimes I'll just pull this off and look at the pictures and kind of read the, just kind of leaf through it. But I find this stuff fascinating. I especially like learning about relativity and general relativity. So that's a classic, A Brief History in Time. And Chinese Horoscope, number 7. A book about astrology or astronomy, book or series that features the movement of stars and planets. So I don't have, I guess I could have pulled off a Brian Greene book. I have a few Brian Greene books, also about cosmology and physics. No, I don't have any books on astrology or any novels that feature astrology. With astronomy, I guess I have like 100 Star Trek books that are all that take place in the stars, so I guess that would count. As far as a book that features a movement of a star or planet, I mean, how do we take that? Are we talking about a science fiction book where we physically move a star, planet, or a moon or something? Maybe one of those Star Trek books features that as a part of its plot. I don't know. I haven't read enough of them. But I will kind of, instead of moving a star or a planet, I will mention, this is of course a sci-fi classic, this is Dune by Frank Herbert. And it features the beginning of the story, a family that, the House Atreides, they move from their home planet to Arrakis, Dune, the desert planet. Of course, this is a classic. I've mentioned it before. But I also want to mention, since I sometimes like talking about the editions of books that I have, this is a mass market paperback that I bought probably about 15 years ago when I first read this. And it's a taller mass market. So you can see here, it's the taller style. Usually I don't like tall mass markets. They're generally very stiff and they're uncomfortable to read. However, this one is very floppy and light, and I love it. They also made it much thicker. This is an old cover, but this edition, it has less words on the page than older editions that look like this. And it's very light and floppy, comfortable to read. And look at this spine. I've read this book twice, and the spine has 0 cracks in it. It's great. So I do like talking about editions. So I love this particular copy of Dune. And then after that, tag others. So I'll put a few people down in the description. I'm kind of honing in on who I feel that I generally tag that likes to be tagged with these videos. Also, if you're watching this, just consider yourself tagged if you make videos. And if you don't make videos, feel free to pick out, if it strikes your fancy, pick out one of these prompts and give me an answer down in the comments. I'd love to hear about it, even if you don't make videos. And once again, I'm a shout out to anyone that likes James Bond books. If you know of a booktube event that goes on annually, where you read James Bond or other spy fiction, please let me know. And if not, maybe that's something that should happen, a James Bond booktube event at some point. But anyway, that is all for now. Thank you.